Right then, welcome back to the channel. Manchester United did squeeze past Brighton after penalty shootout and find ourselves booked for an FA Cup showdown with Manchester City, who might be doing a treble, who might be going for the only trophy that they're going to win this year. It's all to play for. And it's hard to be super optimistic going into this game because of the dicking City handed out to us earlier in the season, because we don't have our first choice centre-half partnership, because of the seemingly injuries and knocks that are being picked up by every single member of the squad. But it doesn't matter, because you're going to have Pep overthinking it, and there will be opportunities in that game. It's going to be closer than I think everybody, including the bookies, is making this. And there is an opportunity for United to pick up another piece of silverware. So we're all in. But let's have a look what went wrong and what went right yesterday in the game. And starting with what went right, Victor Lindelof. Man was a force, one of the few performers for United. Lindelof, probably the best of the lot. Very solid, defended well. Did his individual battles really well, took responsibility, was composed, was good in possession, and it was quite fitting that he actually scored the winning penalty at the back end of all of that. Midfield. Now, there is an age in the midfield, and it's 30. And Eriksen and Casemiro looked every single week of that 30 years old, and you're starting to see to the point where it's been a tough season for the pair of them, and they got outrun against Brighton. Eriksen has never been combative. That's not his game. He's there for control. He's there for creativity, and Casemiro's form has started to falter with everything else that's going on around him. I don't know if he needs a mental break. I don't know if he needs a physical break. But Caicedo and McAllister, who, let's be honest, aren't shit. Two seriously good footballers. They were a far more dynamic partnership in midfield, and they dominated, actually, what on paper is a very good midfield for United. And not just on paper. Practically, it's been a good midfield when we've seen it paired this season. So, potentially something to keep an eye on in the summer. But that is a concern, I think. And I can see why United want some legs and some energy added to that midfield, because I think that'd be very useful to us. Same old Martial. He looked injured again. I mean, he might not have recovered from, Maguire trying to murder him on Thursday night, but he was sluggish. He didn't really offer a lot. There was a lack of urgency, which is something that people seem to lay at his feet a lot. But there was no urgency. Was bullied by Webster and Dunk. Didn't really allow us any sort of pressure relief. And we was under a lot of pressure. It didn't really hold it up too well. These are the inconsistencies in performance. We know what the top end of an Anthony Martial performance looks like, and it's very good. Undeniably very good. But how often do you get that undeniable performance? The average of his performance, when you include the fact that actually he is injured all of the time, it's just far too low for him to really be considered. I think he'll probably still be kept around because you don't want to replace too many players in the same season unless there's an opportunity that presents itself that's undeniable. I imagine that his days at United are probably numbered. Number 4, Brighton are here to stay. They're no fluke. And while they're doing what they're doing right off the pitch, and this isn't a De Zerbi thing and it wasn't a Graham Potter thing, it's obviously a club that knows the principles that it wants to adhere to. And while Potter and De Zerbi have differences as managers, they're part of the same genus. They come from the same sort of family. You can see the evolution of one into the other. And that's not necessarily to say that De Zerbi is a massive evolution on Potter or the other way around. You can see that they belong to the same generalization of a philosophy. It's not like you've gone from Tony Pulis to Pep, is it? There has been, or even in what Burnley have done, which has proved extremely successful for Burnley when they've gone from Sean Dyche to Vincent Kompany. And the style difference that we've seen there has been sensational and very effective. Will it work in the Premier League? We will see. But what Brighton have done, and I think this is smart, and I think this is something that United got wrong when we flip-flopped through all the different managers that we had prior to getting to Erik ten Hag, is that you've identified what you value as a club. And that allows a director of football and a recruitment department to select and identify players on a 4 or 5 year plan. And that means that you can start looking to recruit along these principles, because the manager that is in charge is not as relevant to who you're looking at bringing in. Because you know, listen, if De Zerbi gets gripped by someone else, say Juventus come in for him or Real Madrid come in for him, and it's a bigger move than Brighton and he takes it, they will appoint another manager in the same genus. I think Brighton are that well run at the moment. They've got a short list of 3 managers that they could turn to take over from De Zerbi. I would be surprised if they've not, because that's how well run I believe Brighton to be. I believe they are training a system and a style of play right the way down through all the different academy sides. I believe their recruitment department is in sync with the director of football. And I think that even if De Zerbi, who I think has done a sensational job and moved them forward, by the way, I think even if he moves on, they will appoint somebody that continues the work that both Potter, because I think, look, it went absolutely tits up, car crash style for Potter at Chelsea. But let's not write off every single thing the man's done in his career. He was identified. He was brought in. He was given the tools and the time to be able to fulfill a job. And he did an excellent job, hence why he was given the Chelsea job. And De Zerbi, okay, had a lot more high-profile success with Sassuolo prior to coming to Brighton. But he is well and truly on the world stage now, and he will get a big job offer. Whether or not he takes it is another thing. He might decide he wants to get into the Champions League with Brighton, which is mental. But I think he's capable of doing it. And if he does move on, I think Brighton will continue the work that they've done. And look, he is a great manager, and they have got great players. They absolutely outplayed United over the course of the game. They have a structure to the way that they are playing. Caicedo looks like an absolute find and someone that's going to go right to the top. You've got to remember, Brighton haven't just lost managers recently. They've lost big players. Matoma as well. What a gem. What a find. And what an absolute threat. And Wan-Bissaka had a hell of a job keeping him quiet. Their players work in unison. Recruitment is off the charts. Buy-in, which is very important, is off the charts. And finally, Derby Day final. The best of times, the worst of times. The absolute fucking nightmare situation getting the train home after you lose it. It's a huge game. Can we stop the treble? Can we stop City winning anything at all? If Arsenal somehow pull off the impossible, improbable, and Real Madrid do the business in the Champions League, Manchester City are looking at winning absolutely fuck all. Does form go out the window? I find it very tough to sit here and give you a prediction. I think there's enough time for United to both dip in and out of form prior to this game. So it's going to be really hard to figure out what Manchester United's going to turn up. I think United have got ways to win that game. But it will massively depend on who the starting lineup is. And if it's Harry Maguire, I might go home. If it's Luke Shaw and Lindelof, based on that performance that we saw today, I've got some belief that we might be able to do it. I've seen the stats. You've not all subscribed. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.